In August 2022, the US Congress passed the Inflation Reduction Act, providing $369 billion in funding in the form of subsidies, tax breaks, as well as loans. This monumental piece of legislation is set to be the USA's response to the ongoing climate crisis. Before we jump into the specifics, let's get a clear understanding of what inflation is. Inflation is a concept that refers to the sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services over time. It can have serious impacts on the economy, including reducing purchasing power, eroding savings, and affecting business operations. So, what is the purpose of the Inflation Reduction Act? The primary goal of the Inflation Reduction Act is to stabilize and reduce inflation rates, promoting economic stability. By curbing inflation, the Act aims to protect consumers' purchasing power and ensure that their savings retain value. Stable prices can boost investor confidence and encourage economic growth. It is also a good example of the government using supply-side policies instead of demand-side policies. These policies help improve supply chains, reduce production bottlenecks, and boost productivity. It also makes the USA less reliant on imports and creates more domestic jobs, especially in the deindustrialized Rust Belt regions, which help reduce regional inequalities. The Act is also designed to incentivize consumers and the private sector to start investing in cleaner energy sources, which will lower the country's crippling inflation. Its vision is to lower greenhouse gas emissions and confront climate change, in addition to substantially lower the cost of energy for many households and firms by improving energy security and showcase America as a pioneer in technology and innovation. Why is now the time for renewable energy sources? In the wake of the war in Ukraine, Europe was cut off from its Russian energy imports. The price of wholesale oil in Europe in March 2022 was $120 compared to just $50 in January of the same year. This supply-side shock caused energy prices to surge, forcing businesses to raise their prices and thus creating a cost of living crisis in many nations. The war has raised fears of being overly reliant on energy imports, leading to a scramble to find alternative energy sources. Subsequently, policymakers have shifted their focus onto renewable energy sources. However, self-sufficiency is not the only purpose of the Inflation Reduction Act. The Act is striving to induce a revitalization of US industry and infrastructure. Previously, investment into the renewable energy sector was limited due to its vast expense. Now the tax benefits and subsidies makes projects into the renewable energy sector profitable. Therefore, it will likely attract investment from all over the world, creating high-tech manufacturing jobs, which in turn will raise the income levels, helping spark a positive multiplier effect and economic growth. Better paid workers will use their higher income to spend in the local economy, helping local businesses and creating indirect jobs. In addition, they will provide higher tax receipts for the government, who can use this extra income to invest in public services or infrastructure. Renewable energy sources are generally less polluting than fossil fuels. This helps protect human health and the natural environment. The green energy transition also slows down the advent of climate change and ensures sustainable growth for future generations. So far, money has been poured into electric vehicle manufacturing, wind farms, and solar panel production. Furthermore, money has been allocated to carbon capture and storage technology and biofuels. Such an increase in energy output would cause energy prices to fall. As a result, businesses will have lower costs of production and households will have more discretionary income to spend on goods and services. However, on the other side, the Inflation Reduction Act has caused tensions across the world, including with US allies. Such an extensive scheme will give many firms the means and motive to move investment away from other countries and help make US firms more internationally competitive. Many allies and competitors of the US, such as the EU, have seen the act as a protectionist policy aimed against them. Ursula von der Leyen, the current president of the European Commission, has claimed the act would bring unfair competition despite previously urging the US to do more in the fight against climate change. The EU had hoped to attract investment into its own renewable energy sector to help replace its reliance on Russian gas. However, it will find it tough to match the sheer scale of the Inflation Reduction Act. China, the USA's main trade competitor, has labeled the act as discriminatory and claims it goes afoul of WTO regulations. Imports from China do not qualify for the new tax credits offered by the Inflation Reduction Act. Currently, it's China who dominates the production of raw materials, which makes up clean technology components. For example, China currently makes up to 60% of lithium refining in the world and produces 2/3 of the batteries used in electric vehicles in the world. The International Energy Agency expects China to control more than 60% of the global supply chain for wind, batteries, and solar by 2030. Benchmark Mineral Intelligence expects China will have more than double the battery manufacturing capacity of the US and Europe combined by the end of the decade. Thus, it would be extremely difficult for the US to avoid Chinese imports and outcompete China in its production. Now, how effective will the Inflation Reduction Act be? Firms and investors only have 10 years to capitalize on the tax credits and subsidies offered by the Inflation Reduction Act. The Associated Builders and Contractors Trade Association has estimated a need for more than 500,000 construction workers to meet demand. Given the current job vacancies of around 9.5 million jobs and the rate of economic inactivity being 25.5% in Q1 of 2023, finding the supply of workers may prove difficult. This means that many projects may be delayed and eventually may be abandoned altogether. Many are skeptical of how the Act will reduce greenhouse gas emissions if it leads to a massive expansion in industry and infrastructure. Some claim that in the short term, the Act would only worsen energy insecurity as demand for energy is likely to skyrocket while supply lags behind. Use of protectionist policies may also see some retaliation from other countries, potentially creating supply chain issues and causing further delays. Already tight supply of raw materials may push up costs and hinder projects. In addition, supply-side policies are very expensive and take decades for its effects to finally show up. This can force governments into taking shortcuts or scaling down parts of the program to avoid ballooning costs. Adding to the already huge debt owed by the US government may be counterintuitive and force austerity measures in the future, whereby the government cuts spending and increases taxes. This will lower living standards for the most vulnerable in society, thus widen economic inequalities. Inequalities can lead to social problems such as crime and deprivation. However, in the longer term, once development gets underway, the generated multiplier effect will mean increased output and thus GDP. The jobs created will raise the average income levels, meaning more consumption, creating derived demand for labor. Businesses will benefit from higher profits and are likely to expand, employing more workers and investing more in capital, boosting productivity. Workers earning more income and businesses making more profits will result in higher government tax revenues, which can be used to invest in merit goods or improve the budget deficit. Higher wage rates may incentivize inactive economic agents to rejoin the workforce, reducing the rate of inactivity and job vacancies simultaneously. Since the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act, at least $224 billion in clean tech and manufacturing projects has been announced, promising to create over 100,000 jobs. In summary, the Inflation Reduction Act aims to address the growing concern of rising inflation rates and encourage a major energy transition. By implementing a combination of fiscal and supply-side strategies, its goal is to stabilize prices, protect consumers, and foster long-term economic growth. As with any policy, there may be potential unintended consequences and challenges that need to be carefully considered. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more riveting content. As always, please feel free to share your thoughts and questions in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious.